Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I bring for you Far East El-Dorado. Now this was a map that was a tournament map in Smacky, I want to say it was Smacky 4. Right now it got promoted to a Global League map. The only real notable difference is the little cruiser right here. I didn't consider it such a important thing to put the cruiser here, because I didn't consider exposed HQ that bad, because Sami was not prevalent during the tournament. Now, Sami was actually a common choice on this map. The issue was during the tournament that most Sami players lost their matches. Ones who did were really facing Sami mirrors. So I didn't consider Sami to be good on this map. And when I was looking at the map initially, I was sort of agreeing with that sentiment that Sami wasn't good. Let's start with the income. The income is equal 25 split. So what that means is that a decent part of the map, you're going to be making multiple vehicles a turn. So let's start with the strong side. You have two bases. If you make vehicles, they can only go to the strong side. So, starting off, you do have two bases that are already online, already deploying units to the strong side. There is a weak side base. The weak side base is offline, so you have to spend all that time getting to it, capturing it, before you can start pumping out units. So there's already a delay on your weak side front for development, which is kind of not great. Now there is an airport, like there are with a lot of strong side, weak side maps. The issue is it doesn't support the weak side as well as it supports the strong side. Because strong side, you just go up and to the left. For the weak side, you have to go around this pipe. So that's going to waste an entire turn and then some to get to the same level of positioning as you would with just the base. Now, there is the pipe seam, and the issue is that to pop the pipe seam takes quite a lot of either tempo, or you need to really sink in a lot of resources to pop it. So there's three considered ways that you'd be able to do this. You would spend tempo with mechs and artillery, B-copter, or a bomber. All those require either a huge tempo loss or the fact that you're really sinking into air units before you even get the bonus of actually popping this pipe seam. Now for most, like 90% of players, I don't think it's worth it. There's a few select coal players who can make use of this. That's about it. And if you're not playing coal, I don't think it's as valuable as I don't think any other CO than coal it's worth it. So for the most part, you're just not going to be popping this. Next thing to look at is kind of the main fronts on this map, which is going to be these cities. So I'm going to prefer this as the primary front, where you're going to be fighting over the capturing these 2, sometimes 3 cities, depending on where you're positioning your units. So if we look at what's around these cities, you're going to see the strong side player has plains, the weak side player has roads. So that little bit of difference, especially in tier 4, where let's say Jake needs plains, and Lash needs her tiles to really make any benefit whatsoever. Those little things can come into play. There's also the secondary front, which is kind of in the corners. You do want to get these cities. Issue being is you want to spend as little resources as you can to capture and maintain them. It's somewhat nice that it's a little bit choky if you get them, because then your opponent only has 1 or 2 ways in. If you're on the strong side, your opponent only has 1 way in if the weak side player comes up and snipes these. You don't want to spend too many resources though, because let's say you spend equivalency of 2 tanks to capture these cities. That's going to be 7 turns of those being captured that you're going to need just to make up for those lost tanks. So you're already down 2 units because you spent those tanks, and then you have to wait those 7 turns to recoup your money, and then any money, extra money from there is just icing on the cake. But to wait that long, so, and especially if you're fighting up over here, your units aren't fighting elsewhere on the map. So the reason why I started looking at this game is because I thought it was really interesting to not only see a Sami, someone choose Sami, but to see a high-level player choose Sami, my man Graygoo. And we're going to watch it and see if he knows something that we don't. So we're going to start off this match in the dark, and the reason we're going to do it is because we're going to play a little game by watching just Graygoo up until about day 7. We'll say day 7 is when we'll turn the lights on. It'll be a fun game.
Ready, go!
And this is where it differs, because most players during the tournament, at least, unanimously agreed that APC was the best opener on this map. And the reason is because there are several cities that give you can get sooner if you boost your infantry. With an APC, you're more likely to get this corner property, as well as because it's harder to get units out of this base, it's a delayed base, there's less chance that you're going to get punished. It's less likely you're going to get punished early on from this weak side base. And this is also interesting. He goes with a dual recon opener. It'll make sense in a bit. And a T-copter. I'm just going to stop to talk about T-copters right here. The reason most people go with an APC is that they can get it sooner, and they can start using it to boost their infantry right away in terms of positioning. Now, here's the drawback of the APC. So let's say you're going to be boosting from this base right here, which means ideally you would place your APC right here so it doesn't have to go through the forest. You'd get the maximum movement from your infantry, 1, 2, 3, boost him, and then you start building a second infantry ready to hop in next turn to go further. Now, the issue with that is that if you're using this base to produce infantry, you're not using it to produce vehicles. Now, why is that bad? If you produce vehicles from this base, you have to go through not 1, but 2 forests. It really slows down your vehicle production. So you could flip it where this is your vehicle production base, and then this is your infantry base. But if you're trying to boost it with APCs, the best square you can put it is right here. And then you go 1, 2, 3 into that APC, but then you can't just boost it, because then you'd be boosting it on top of this base. And if you base cover yourself, you're screwing yourself over. So the transport copter actually does not have this issue, because it can not only just kind of solve this issue, you can front switch the copter unlike the APC. The APC is kind of stuck to this one front. The T-copter can go back and forth through both of these. Especially on your weak side, if you're fighting, there's a chance that you start losing your infantry as you start producing vehicles. So having this be able to just keep boosting infantry to your weak side is really great. The only issue is that it doesn't help your development as fast as the APC. That's the only drawback. And here's the move. So the purpose of this recon is to try to see what's on this particular square. So pause the video if you need to, and I'm going to ask the question: is there a tank on the field? And if so, where is it? So we're going to use a little spreadsheet to kind of figure out, does mooji6 have a tank? So this is going to rely on two main assumptions. A, that our opponent does not city skip. He has an efficient capture phase where he's making sure to capture every city as he comes to it. And two, we're going to make the assumption that he does not base skip any turn. That he's always producing a unit on a base, on an available base. So for the first 2 days, it's pretty typical. It's going to come out like this. And we know what an efficient capture phase is like on this map. We could work it out the long way. We don't have time for that. We could just steal it from another high-end player. That's kind of what we're going to be looking at. But we're going to kind of get income looking like this, assuming that both days he produces two infantry. So we're going to play devil's advocate. Now, he could have made a day 3 recon. Some players rather have an extra infantry to help their capture phase later on. That's always a very useful thing. To give him the most likelihood of being able to purchase a tank, we're going to have him just save money and make the assumption that he's building infantry. So we get something like this, which means that day 4, you would have 7,000 money to start. Okay. Let's just try to figure out... Okay, so we know on day 4 he has 7,000. And he would have at least 2 bases. So we can make the assumption from here that the first day he could possibly have built a tank is day 5. So let's see when this guy was produced. We knew he's from this base. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So he was made 1 turn ago, which would have been day 5. And there's no configuration that would work where he could produce, if he's not base skipping, that he could produce a tank and a recon both on day 5. Therefore, we know there's no tank. And we know that he had built a recon on day 5. Great. That gives us an insight to what he's been doing. Let's keep going. And boom. So this is the purpose of the second recon. And it's to get vision of these 3 cities. And why is that important? I'm going to ask another question. Pause if you need to. What was mooji6's opening? So, we know it had to have been the APC opener. So how do we know it's the APC opener? This comes down to understanding how the capture phase plays out. So I'm going to use this one for example. And the key thing is that we're going to be looking at the infantry right here. So this infantry can either get one of these 2 cities, but to get one of those 3 further cities, what he ends up having to do on day 5 is leave and not capture the city he's on to go capture one of these 3. And that's just inefficient, and it doesn't get him as much money as he needs soon. So to get to one of those 3 cities without city skipping, what ends up having to happen is that this APC right here boosts this guy over to this tile, and then from here, this infantry can go ahead and capture one of these 2 cities on day 7. So that's how we know that he has an APC. Cool. So now we know his opener. We know that there's no current tank over here. There is an APC somewhere over here boosting infantry, most likely to this corner. But right now we're not feeling threatened with what's on the board. One side note is that we saw the recon move over here, and we didn't see anything move in its place over here. So most likely, if there was a vehicle built the previous turn, it's not on this side, because it wouldn't make sense that there is. Well, it's highly unlikely it's on this side, because it wouldn't make sense for you to only use 3 tiles of movement for a tank or 4 movement tiles for a recon just to hide away from your opponent. And boom. So we see a tank there. So now we know that this had been made previous turn. So we know that Mooji on day 7 built a tank. And we can account for that. Now we still don't know what he did on day 6. But we'll figure that out. So one of the nice things over here that Jess does not have a chance of interrupting a Sami capture. Therefore, the best thing that Jess can hope for is to just plop it down in the city and try to delay that capture. Try to contest it later on. So this is a great example. He moves the copter down here to start boosting. He moves that, boosts this infantry, and he has a mech ready to jump in next turn. It's a lot more efficient on this front to have a copter, and you can even drop units off over here and whatnot. It's very efficient. Ooh, and this is great. So right now we see that there is a recon. Well, let's figure out, we'll make the assumptions from this base, and we'll see when it probably was built. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it was most likely built 2 turns ago, which fits nicely in our little diagram. Congratulations, you guys figured out what the build order was. So this is very nice for Graygoo, because Graygoo now knows the entire build order up to day 7, and mooji6 doesn't really know much about Graygoo. Only really the opening, which in this case is a double recon. And that's how he knows it's a double recon. But so Graygoo knows where all the threats are. Mooji has to figure that out. And so one thing, attacking this is actually quite safe, because he's making the assumption that most likely if there was a tank built, this tank wouldn't be able to reach it. And if there was a tank here built the previous turn, day 8, that it wouldn't be able to get over here anyway to attack it. So he knows that his recons are safe. He can feel free to go take a hit on this infantry, and it'll slow down the capture phase over in this area. So from here, I'm gonna go back to day 1. We're just gonna fly through it with the lights on and see how right we may or may not have been. look, the AC opener. Recon. You can exactly see how I boosted it right there. Second recon. The tank. So we do see that on day 8 there is a tank down here built. This is about where we left off. As you can see, he can't actually reach any of those guys. Now this is an interesting move because one, it's risking it for the biscuit that he doesn't have anything on there, which is unlikely anyway. But he decides he's going to drop his recon on top of that comm tower and delay Sami's comm tower, which is not a bad idea because Sami really wants that comm tower. She does not want to be fighting into someone who does have their comm tower, because Sami is already -10 with the comm tower. She doesn't get that boost, and then Jess is +10, and then with that comm tower is an additional +10. That will slowly... That's a really decent uphill battle for Sami. And then, no matter what, you see this right here, you see it unloading, you're just going to assume it's a tank. I'm sorry, you're going to assume it's a mech. And the mech's purpose here is to boot kick this guy off. And Gray makes a bunch of artillery. I really like artillery on this map, especially on the strong side. On the weak side, it's also good. I just think Sami already likes artillery, and then even on this map in particular, no matter what CO you choose, artillery is just really great. So here's the thing. Yes, you took him off. Tank right here, city. And a medium tank. So I have this discussion with people all the time. Medium tank is an interesting choice because for it to really, if you're going to use it offensively, ideally you want it to be in place of a Neo tank. So with a plus CO like Jess, that is actually somewhat doable.
So the golden ability of a Neo tank is be able to one-shot tanks on roads and plains. Now, Jess's medium tank is not able to do this without being able to pop her power. So essentially, for it to be as effective at wall breaking as a Neo tank, you need to plan around using your COP.
Neo tank, on the other hand, is just a little bit more consistent. It doesn't have to play around the timing of the match. So here's the thing. The reason why this was okay, I'm not going to say it was okay, but he was okay doing it is because even though he knows there's a tank, it's a Sami tank that has not acquired the comm tower. Therefore, this wasn't going to one-shot it. So it gets rid of a Sami infantry, but it also still has its ability to get vision, so he can just run away. This right here is actually a nice ploy. He did move off the comm tower, but he moves it still onto a city that Sami could have started capturing next turn. So, yes, he was booted off the comm tower, but he's still harassing. He's still delaying the inevitable. Nice little formation over here. There's no way he's going to be able to stop that comm tower now. So right here is a little bit of a tough decision that was made, at least for me, because seeing this would have been worked. You know the opponent's going to be able to take a city shot at you the next turn. It would have been really great if there was some sort of artillery protecting these guys, but no, these guys are just going to get hit really hard the following turn. Is it worth delaying the capture for a little bit? We'll see. We'll see. So here we go. And we do see that this guy, he sees the recon. He's in range. But keep in mind that this recon also sees this artillery. So what's going to happen? Boom. Finishes off him, clears a pathway. Because it is on a road, boom, that hard. Even the tank doesn't get away. Oof, that's a pretty decent blow right here. Not great for Sami. And then starts threatening this capture. And this right here was kind of a roll to stop the capture. He really could get the capture if he wanted. Or he can kill the recon, one of the two. So now in this turn, not only did he kind of really just rip up these infantry, he now has tanks positioned on some good tiles. It's not great. You stop the capture. Let's see how he keeps playing through on this. So goes to disrupt that capture, of course. Tank, because he doesn't see any other tanks, I guess that really makes sense. This guy looks like he's really just here to protect this tank. Pulls back. So this one, he could have captured it. He's going to definitely lose it next turn though. But I kind of like the concept of removing the vision from your opponent. 1 HP recons are really great for just sacking into your opponent's army, just so you have all that information of their composition and whatnot. So that guy still had a lot of use, and you just kind of got rid of it. I'll take that over this city that most likely will get flipped again anyway. So right here is a much better setup. So he boots him off the city, and then he has this artillery poised, ready to strike whatever gets put on that city. This is a proper trap right here. So look, now he's got two nice tanks in range. Beautiful. And although he gets the recon, ooh, he gets a free shot at that tank, that medium tank on a road. Not good. Usually with Neo tanks, you do want them to get that one wall breaking potential, but then you usually want to surround them again with your units, so that if there is like an opponent posing Neo tank, that you can't get a shot off at you. So yeah, you kind of you're taking a risk by using it to destroy things like recons. Then again, it's unlikely that the opponent has a Neo tank this early. So he joint caps over here. I'm not a big fan of joint capping with Jess, just because one, you do want to keep your infantry count up. Jess's infantry being weaker, they're going to take more damage trying to fend off other infantry, especially Sami's infantry. So you're kind of fighting, in terms of keeping your infantry count, you're kind of fighting an uphill battle. So maybe not. I don't think you're really going to get this anyway. But he is making active threats that Sami has to deal with over here. And an actual Neo. Great. So we get the Neo hit, we get a tank. We get another tank. Now the only way, unless I'm wrong, the only way this does 6 damage to that medium tank is if you pop the double time, and then you can easily finish it off. So to make sure he finishes it off, he pops the double time. Also, it will help this guy right here reach this tank. And continues to delay this guy's flip. By successfully delaying these captures, he has maintained a little bit of an income lead for a little bit, which is probably worth it now that looking at it, where he threw his infantry over here. Probably worth it in the long run because of how long he's been able to stave off the captures of these two. And a bomber. Fun thing about Sami bombers is that if you see a Sami bomber, you know what its intended purpose is. It's the HQ. So he knows he can't push in this, so he goes for a front switch. That stops this flip. Doesn't sound bad on paper. So this is an interesting one. So he has anti-air, and anti-air love to eat up mechs. Yes. But the issue is, anti-air would rather eat up one of these copters, these yummy copters. The issue with the mech is if you're going to be using it to pick off mechs, especially if you're going to yeet it without support around it, there's a high chance that it's going to get picked off from tanks or something. So if that be the case, you're trading that anti-air, that 8,000 unit for a 3,000 unit. That wasn't a good trade. That wasn't an efficient trade. And sure, you can always build more of these guys, but then Jess is not building tanks. Jess rather build tanks. They're a little bit more useful for Jess than an anti-air. And then worse, you don't have a counter for when the copters actually do come, if that gets blown. So finishes off that guy, great. And notice that although Jess has the power, Jess could have made the super. Jess, I guess, is going to hold on to it until the Neo tank can join the party. And because I guess he assumes that this has a high chance of getting just torn down, so he does build another anti-air. Got to keep your anti-air numbers up. So this is the first time we see this guy get used, and from Mooji6's perspective, he gets a good view of all of this from the recon, so he knows it has to be an artillery in this forest. That'll be important later. Finishes off vision. And now this guy is... The opponent knows this guy is protected, so it's not going to be worth it to finish this guy off. This guy can safely heal on this city. Now here's a move I would have messed up. I would have just attacked the tank. But because he attacked the infantry first and cleared it, he gets a tank on a city, and then he actually takes less recoil. So I would have messed that up. But the order of operations is important. Just pops the power. Keep in mind that Jess does not have vision over here. Eats the recon in to get a vision. It's not great necessarily vision, but sometimes you just gotta eat the recon. Sends in the tank. I think that's a risky move because he definitely sees the copters. And there's probably... He may know there's a tank here. I don't know. He knows there's some other units over here. And he is getting really close to his opponent's turf. So that's kind of... And then he goes to blow up with an artillery... And then he goes to blow him up with an anti-air. Again, I feel like he just yeets it over there with... kind of recklessly. If Graygoo has a solution for this, he's going to target this anti-air. And then these copters are going to run rampant because he doesn't have any counter to that. One thing I've been trying to work on myself is that not to overextend. And in this scenario, my kind of rule of thumb is I shouldn't extend past these cities that I have yet to capture. So because it's not a good reason necessarily to do that. So keep them over here, capture these, and then push forward once I have more infantry to capture. But way over here, I don't think there's much of a benefit. So this is great. He's forcing... I think the name of the game here is to deal with these units, but flip these. The only issue is I don't like giving away units just for the flip to some extent, because then I'm down all my heavy hitters, all my attacking units, and even though I may make it up in the income, I'm still chasing that unit count later on in the match. Same thing over here with the anti-air. You don't know if there's tanks, you don't know if there's mechs. It's highly risky, especially next to this tile, next to this tile. You're kind of asking for trouble, in my opinion. I'd personally, I would rather hold it in the... in the back of my formation, waiting for a copter to show up. Or at the very least, the opponent sees it and knows not to try to use copters here. So he's not able to reinforce this section with copters. I don't know, something. But again, with the join capping, he really wants his property. I think he'd rather have unit count, because he's on his strong side, he's losing on the unit count. Most of the strong units he's been putting out have been on his weak side. You don't want to be fighting on your weak side too much. So this right here was the second unit that was hit. And based off your vision, you know there's an artillery somewhere in the area. It's probably still in this forest, to be honest. Bomber shows, destroys that tank. Copters start to wreak havoc. Full tank, boom. And then he has all these other lower HP tanks to finish this guy off. So here's the nice thing. Although he has a Neo tank, the Neo tank knows it can't push into here because he sees the bomber. Not good. So he sends in, and he's able to stop this one flip. Again, right here, you see that mech was just able to pop it. This is the reason why I don't love just yeeting anti-air unnecessarily. I don't like yeeting them on infantry. If there's a copter that you want to yeet it on, go right ahead. Now, one thing over here, the recons are pretty decent for dealing with mechs, but because of Goo's positioning, anything that was going to attack this was going to get wrecked. And he only sees that once he makes this move. So he does get these two flips in this city. He's now 6,000 up on his opponent. That's not chump change, but as you can see, he only has one real hitter on this front now, and the rest infantry. Meanwhile, Sami has a bunch of vehicles ready to strike. Will he survive long enough on this front to come back? Don't know. And boom, you can tell he's starting to front switch over. He's won a decent victory here. He knows roughly what the opponent has. And if his opponent doesn't know what he has here anymore, he can actually front shift pretty down to start finishing the end game tactics. So, Jess is right now using this moment to really disrupt all the infantry. And you're going to want that. It's important because as you get to the end game, it becomes riskier and riskier that Sami's victory march is going to end in a game. Little downside is that you are pushing into Sami, so you're giving her more power charge. Second thing is, although you're getting the infantry, like this mech for instance, you see the mech, you're kind of ignoring it. He's going to get that tank. The positioning is giving Sami even more of an advantage. I get him with the joint capping. I know you have a excess of infantry right here, but I don't know. And like to be honest, he's threatening Sami to actually get vehicles out here. This guy can't cover it, which is not great. I mean, this guy can, but it's one tank. I don't think this trap is necessarily a great investment right now, maybe? If you had the Neo tank somewhere over here, that'd be really helpful, to be honest. Especially since you see that the bomber moved south. You know that. So Graygoo knows that he knows that his opponent doesn't have the units to stop him currently, so he's just whittling it down. So by the time he does get the power, he can just go and get for it. So by the time he does get the power, he can make sure he can clear the way for the infantry. And these two artillery are nice for anything that tries to go in to punish it. And these two artillery are nice because if anything goes in to try to deal with this, it's going to get punished. Even these tanks and this lower HP tank, they're going to have purpose. Pretty much everything got front shifted down. This is the end game. This is the now or never. It either works or it doesn't. And with about 15, 16 out, it is getting really, really close. So pretty much by next turn, they should be able to make it up. Yeah, so you know you're not going to get this because one, you should know by now, you've already fallen for it twice, that there's an artillery in this forest. Two, you see the mech with the victory march against the tank. Oof. It's going to be able to, there's going to be some way that it's going to be able to stop you. Starts willing down. This move is important because now he sees the pathway forward. He knows he can make it. Boom. Straight shot.
And there goes the battle!
So I was a little surprised at how effective Sami was during this match. And for me, it comes down to how well Sami was positioned. So a well-positioned Sami can actually do really... Part of what I thought was a big issue is that it was a brawly map, but because the opponent kept yeeting units to go fight Sami, it backfired. Because Sami was prepared with defensive units like artillery, like mechs, to really punish Jess for really just being that aggressive overall. Two, although Jess did get the income advantage, was it worth the having to pull back for a couple turns and not really be able to do anything on that front? I don't really necessarily think that was worth it, especially when you yeeted your units that far into enemy lines.
So is there a lesson to be learned here?
Came around. Galileo, and he disproved that theory. making Aristotle and everybody else on Earth look like a bitch.
So let me guys know what you thought. And as always, thanks for watching.